The Jays in town to face the Red Sox, but more importantly, will the Expos ever come back to Montreal? Joining our panel this week, we have Jamie Campbell from Sportsnet. Jamie, welcome to the show. We also have Annakin Slayd, hip-hop artist. Welcome. Of course, super fan over here, Expos fan of all time. Elias Makos, my colleague. You did? Formerly a colleague and worked at for the Expos, and Tom Caron from the New England Sports Network. Tom, welcome to the show. Great to have all of you here. Let's first of all talk Blue Jays right off the bat before we talk about the Expos. Let's get your opinion, Jay. What's your prediction for the season for the Blue Jays?
Well, you know, if they could figure out a way of beating the Boston Red Sox, I think I said that for Tom's benefit, of course. The Blue Jays are the defending American League East champions. I hate making predictions, as many of you, I'm sure, do over 162 because you just never know what's going to happen. But I think it's fair to say, given that there weren't that many changes over the course of the year, they should be considered one of the best teams in that division.
Anakin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they're going to pick up where they left off.
Yeah.
I think the Red Sox got a lot of issues that they're trying to sort out. So I think the cohesion as a team with the Blue Jays could just jump ahead of the Red Sox.
Tom, he mentioned the Red Sox. You got to come in.
How's your third baseman making $95 million who's not starting doing?
Yeah, we've got the Tampa Bay Rays salary on the bench to begin the season, all right? With Pablo Sandoval and Rusney Castillo both getting bumped out of the starting lineup. But Jamie's right. I mean, the Blue Jays are the gold standard now in the division where they've come from. And I think the Red Sox have done a lot and will battle, but you got to beat the top dog to get there, and they are the best team right now.
Let's talk Montreal and the possibility of the Expos returning. Elias, as I said, you're a huge fan. You worked for the franchise before. Is it feasible to have them come back?
Yes, and it's more than ever. I think a few years ago, you would have people laughed at you. You said, "Oh yeah, the Expos are coming back." They would actually laugh at you. But things have changed. Montreal has changed. Quebec has changed. The biggest thing, and I'll say this: when the Expos left, everything that had to go wrong went wrong for the Expos.
Right.
Whether it's the Canadian dollar, the lack of political will, the lack of an ownership group, everything went wrong. And now you've got a mayor of Montreal, Denis Coderre, who is nuts about baseball. I mean, he's certifiable nuts when it comes to baseball.
He's put $11 million into local baseball right here over a 3-year period.
He's trying to send that message. So that's the biggest thing. We never had that. We never had, political leaders that wanted that. I mean, Gerald Tremblay, we could say a lot about this guy. He didn't want baseball to come back here. And we have a mayor that does want baseball to come back. And that's the number one biggest thing. Number two is money. So we have to find this ownership group. And that's a question.
Okay, Jamie, where is a billionaire owner going to come and step forward to put up the money to bring a team here?
That's not my area of expertise. What concerns me is the fact that Major League Baseball has to be set on the idea first before it ever comes to fruition. We know this much. So is it done through expansion? There's a new CBA that's going to hopefully be signed sometime next winter because the current one expires. Whether or not Major League Baseball is focused on expansion, they've never publicly said that they are in the near future, and that means you have to rely on franchise relocation. And as we know, the Tampa Bay Rays are trying to find a site somewhere near St. Petersburg to build a new facility, and if that's the case, they might not be the team coming here if relocation is the way of getting baseball back in Montreal. So as much as I would like to see it, it's up to Major League Baseball to turn those wheels.
But they are talking about it south of the border. That's good to see.
There's no question. And there's, what I think baseball loves and what we south of the border love is the young enthusiasm for baseball in Montreal, right? Baseball is an aging sport, right? When you guys do the surveys, we do the surveys. Every year, the average age of a baseball fan gets a year older, okay? They're not getting younger.
Right.
And yet you come up here, even last night, walking around a little bit, young people in Expos shirts getting excited about this. So I think there's a belief in that young, youthful energy. We got a hip-hop guy out here talking Expos.
Well, there's a mystique. There's this retro sort of mystique here in Montreal about young people following it. Now they're going to get a taste of baseball over the last 3 years. Anakin, is it feasible? Can we support a Major League Baseball team here from an attendance and a business perspective?
It's funny. The first year they did the Blue Jays weekend, we were all worried as a fan base. Like, what if only 25,000 people show up? What if people aren't ready to go back to the Big O? What if they won't support the Blue Jays? We had all these worries. First year we had 90-something thousand, 92 or 93. Last year went up to 96, and now they're already at 106. It looks like it's going to be 110,000. And we were worried about doing it every year. Yeah,
We're just all here to see Jamie.
We got the stars.
The great point about this, though, is that these are not people that are getting on via trains and loading in from Toronto.
Yeah.
These are not Torontonians and people from Southern Ontario that are coming to these games. These are local people.
Yeah.
It's pretty evident if you walk the concourse of Olympic Stadium. There are going to be people from the greater Toronto area coming to the games these next 2 days, but most of them are from this area.
Yeah, which is
and
a
you've
great
got people
sign.
from New England too. Obviously, the Red Sox help. And back to Jamie's point, whether it's through expansion or through a move of the Tampa Bay Rays, I think for the Expos to really make it, or whatever you're going to call them, they've got to be in the American League East, right? You get 19 games against the Red Sox, 19 against the Blue Jays, 19 against the Yankees. That's more than a third of your schedule against teams that geographically make sense.
It's a license to print Canadian dollars. Absolutely. You could put us in the AL East.
Guys, we'll just hold these thoughts, and we're going to take a quick break. And we went onto the streets to find out what people here in Montreal had to say about the return of the Expos. Have a look.
I think it would be really good for the city, for the tourism industry, and for everyone.
Based on how horrible the Canadians are doing and the impact, I think that having another team to make our people happier will be good.
I support Montreal in hockey because I live in Montreal, so maybe I will probably support them in baseball if they have a team.
It would probably rekindle the interest that I had because as a kid I was a huge baseball fan and just gave up on it, and as the league gave up on the team here.
Just looking at our Twitter page right now, we asked, do you want the Expos to come back to Montreal? It's 97% so far saying yes with over 140 votes. And Annakin's
Who would say
going,
no to that?
who's going to say, like, who's the 3%
If
that
you look
said
at
no?
in parentheses, I do not like fun. So those people, that's why.
But please vote with your conscience.
There's that one person who does not like fun, and the feasibility is really a big issue because, Jamie, it's a small market team, I would imagine here. We would probably be on the lower budget side of things. Oftentimes, that doesn't necessarily work out to a winning team, and you'd certainly need to have a winning team in the long term.
Well, the Tampa Bay Rays have proved otherwise. Is this a small market?
See, that's
You tell me.
we're not. I mean, we
Small
like
budget,
we
I
like
should
to
say.
lie to ourselves to come up with excuses. That's what we did in the past. We're not a small market.
Yeah.
If we had a team here, we'd be
mid-level.
middle of the pack, and there's no reason why we can't have those revenues. But of course, you need TV, you need all these other things to come into play. But baseball has changed too in the last decade or so.
Absolutely.
The national revenues from the U.S. TV contracts, the Canadian TV contracts, their golden egg that Major League Baseball owns, called their advanced media unit, that makes so much money for them. There's going to be a lot more revenues for this team if and when they do come back.
But Tom, let me share some stats with you, okay? If you're Major League Baseball or you're a business person looking at buying a team, we're losing 15,000 people a year, population-wise here in Montreal. Our unemployment rate in Montreal is 11%, and we have businesses closing. Does that seem like an attractive city?
Well, listen, baseball is succeeding in a lot of cities that are going through tough times. So it really comes down to where's the ballpark. Are people embracing it? It's great to get 107,000 people for 2 games. What are you going to do over 81 games? This would be a great season to have baseball because the Canadian season is going to end in very early April, and you'd have summer to yourself.
Boston guy
But listen, in full disclosure, my first TV job was in Plattsburgh, New York, right down the road. I came up and covered Expos games. The biggest crowd cheer I ever heard at an Expos game was when Mario Lemieux scored in the '87 Canada Cup because everybody was listening to the hockey game on their radio. Can you battle hockey if the Canadians go on a deep playoff run with the baseball team here?
Annakin, what do you think about that?
Well, just the thing about businesses is, if we're going through this down period in Montreal, is the answer to that to not start more businesses? I mean, doesn't bringing the Expos back create more jobs? The surrounding area, let's not forget, we're not just talking about the baseball team. We're talking about all the surrounding area and building that up. The word is Griffintown, which is an area that is coming up. So more businesses, get created, more tourism, of course, if we're talking about the AL East, like Tom said. So I think it's kind of a defeatist attitude to say, well, we don't want to bring anything new into our city because we're having such a tough time.
And if a team's going to come back, you need smart people behind it, and
Absolutely.
smart people will realize that. Problem. Listen, they were at Olympic Stadium. Olympic Stadium is going to be great for 2 days, but Olympic Stadium is a tomb when you want to put a team there for a long period. So if you go downtown or close to downtown and you create a party, what do Montrealers love? We love a party. That's our DNA. I know Denny Coderre likes to say baseball is our DNA. No, it's actually parties are in our DNA.
Yeah, right.
So if you
Any
can create
reason to
that party like downtown, and you look at a couple of other cities that have had new stadiums, they draw for a few years, and then slowly it goes down.
Pittsburgh.
There you go.
But then it came back up.
But look at San Francisco. That's my model. Because what did San Francisco do? They went right to the Bay and they created a party. It's a party. 81 days a year, you have a party. If you did that in this city, it would be an incredible experience.
But
Jamie,
it's a freezing cold party in San Francisco. And here's the benefit of Olympic Stadium is if relocation is the way, at least there's an existing facility that they could say, okay, for 2 years we're going to play out of here, just like Washington did at RFK.
Yeah.
And in 2 years we'll have a new facility for
It's
it.
a little easier when they were trying to fix up Jerry Park in the late 60s, right? Where they had like
You wanna go
500
play tennis
seats.
at Jerry?
Jamie, as far as Major League Baseball is concerned, and what you've heard, how seriously is Major League Baseball really looking at Montreal?
That's a great question. Not seriously enough for the people of this city, obviously, for people who are so deeply invested in wanting to see a team return here. It's not one of Rob Manfred's major issues right now. And I don't know when it will become that because, as I said earlier, Major League Baseball has to get on board with the idea. There has to be a reason to put a team in Montreal for a team to come back here. And I don't think 100,000 people over 2 days to see 2 exhibition games is enough of a reason just yet.
There are 2 franchises in baseball that have some issues when it comes to a stadium. It's Tampa Bay and it's Oakland. Major League Baseball will deal with those issues first. So they either come to the conclusion it won't work or it will work. They find a solution, get a stadium in San Jose, get a new stadium in Tampa. If that doesn't happen, then they can move on. Okay, what's the solution? And Montreal is a really good solution.
And the commissioner has stated his priority is to see that those franchises stay where they are.
And Tampa Bay is at a point now, where they're in that 2-year period where they're sort of exploring options. And that took, as you know, a long time just to get the county government down in St. Petersburg to give them permission to do that. So you talk about the timing, right around the time where the Rays figure we can or can't stay in this area is about the time, I would hope, financing's in line here. People are ready to say, all right, we'll take it. It doesn't work there, bring it here, we'll make it work.
We'll leave that as our last word. Guys, thanks so much for being here. I know all 4 of you will be there tonight. Again, game kicks off 7 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow afternoon's game at 1 o'clock. If you can't make it down to the stadium, you can watch it on Sportsnet.